5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thank you. So the APS Board of Education Audit Committee met in executive session on July 26, 2023 to discuss limited personnel matters in connection with activity fund audits. The matters discussed in the executive session were limited to only those specified. So our next item then for consideration is acceptance of the activity fund internal audit reports for the period April 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2023. So if I could have a motion.
I move that we accept the activity fund internal audit reports for the period of April 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2023.
I will second.
Okay, Ms. King, if we could have a roll call vote, please.
Renee Apodaca,
Yes.
Sarah Brownstein,
Yes.
Scott Elder,
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Heather Snedden,
Yes.
Peggy Mueller-Aragon.
Yes. Okay, so the next audit committee meeting will be held on August 23rd, 2023 at 5 p.m. in the John Milne Community Boardroom of the Alice and Bruce King Educational Complex, 6400 Uptown, and live streamed at aps.edu. And with that, we are adjourned, and this meeting will be followed by a finance committee meeting. One down, two to go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Renette. Oh, thanks.
Okay.
You want me to sign for Danielle on here?
We'll get it later.
Okay.
Did we need to sign in 2 places, not just one? It occurred to me.
I think because it's all in one meeting, I think we just signed for the
It's all
date.
in one. Yeah.
Okay.
Geez, we're like just barely at quorum.
Yeah, just 4 of us.
Don't leave, Danielle.
Don't leave.
Mrs. King and Board Member Mueller-Aragon, we're ready when you are.
Okay, wonderful. So I would like to call the Finance Committee meeting to order. If we can have a roll call, please.
Yolanda Montoya Cordova, Peggy Mueller-Aragon,
Here.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Here.
Barbara Peterson,
Here.
Josefina Dominguez, Courtney Jackson,
Here.
Crystal Tapia Romeo.
Okay, so our first item is going to be adoption. But before we do that, we are going to be removing item 4K, consideration for approval of district purchase or expenditure that equals or exceeds $250,000 for life, accidental death, etc. So we're going to be removing that. So we'll come back at a later time. So with that amendment, if I could get a motion for adoption of the agenda and approval of the June 28th meeting minutes.
Okay, I move to approve, or I move to adopt the July 26, 2023 Finance Committee meeting agenda with the removal of 4K and approve the June 28th, 2023 Finance Committee meeting minutes.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller-Aragon,
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, so our first item is consideration for approval of the award and scope of work for the superintendent to execute a memorandum of agreement with the New Mexico Department of Transportation and subsequent amendments to the local government road fund cooperative agreement. And I'm not sure who's going to be talking about that. It says Miss Alarid, but
I'm here.
okay, go ahead, Miss Alarid, if there's any.
I'm here. Yeah, this is the one we do every year. We participate in the grant program with the New Mexico Department of Transportation, and they match our money. So it's a way that we can leverage our dollars and use theirs. And I have the wrong agenda, the wrong thing in front of me. And we're just coming to you to get approval to go ahead and participate again, and you see, I think that we've been doing this since like 2013. So it's proved to be very effective for us. And this one's going to be for Kit Carson.
Absolutely do not. And the underlying condition.
Any questions?
People around the world have.
I will move to approve the award and scope of work for the superintendent to execute a memorandum of understanding with the New Mexico Department of Transportation.
I'll second.
Great, but.
Okay, we can have a roll call.
Peggy Mueller Aragon.
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez.
Yes.
Barbara Peterson.
Yes.
Tony Jackson.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, next item is consideration for approval of the qualifications base bid of 16.874 million plus tax submitted by Bradbury Stam for construction Sierra Vista Elementary School classroom addition. So Ms. Alarid, go ahead.
You are on mute.
You're on mute, I think. Yeah.
Sorry. Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the board. This is to get your approval to enter a contract with Bradbury Stam to complete the first phase of the start of a rebuild of Sierra Vista Elementary School. It's a classroom block. It's been in the drawer a while. And unfortunately, we only got one bidder. And normally I'm a little skeptical of that, but this actually came in about $6 a square foot lower than what our MAC was. So I felt comfortable going with just the one bidder. We have a very successful relationship with Bradbury and Stam. We've done lots of projects with them. And I would ask for your approval.
$44 a square foot, so it would have been 439, right?
Yeah, it would have been 450 is what we've been estimating, and those are kind of where we've been coming in lately. So this was nice, pleasant surprise.
Any questions?
In a given community. On top of that, we attach a naming convention.
I'll move for approval of the qualifications-based bid of 16,874 million plus tax submitted by Bradbury and Stam.
An early evaluation to see.
I'll second. It's 16.874 million, right? Not 16,000 million.
16 point, that's a typo. Sorry about that.
Sierra Vista
It's
is being
gonna get
treated well. Thank you for clarifying that. I looked at that and thought, what?
Okay, if we could have a roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller Aragon.
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez.
Yes.
Barbara Peterson.
Yes.
Tony Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, so next is consideration for approval of grant budget adjustments for the following funds. So go ahead, Ms. Marin.
Thank you so much. Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Elder, presenting for your consideration of approval two brand new city grants, specifically for community schools.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Where I'll go community.
I'll move
schools.
for approval of grant budget adjustments for the following funds.
I'll second. This is Danielle.
Wonderful. Okay, if we could have a roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller Aragon.
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez.
Yes.
Barbara Peterson.
Yes.
Tony Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, we will move on to consideration for approval of the June 2023 intra-function transfer for grant budgets. And Ms. Marin.
Thank you. Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Elder, presenting for your consideration of approval the intra-function transfers for grant management for the month of June 2023. As mentioned before, during June, July, and August, we have a exceedingly large volume of intra-function transfer as we get ready to finalize, close the books, do last minute corrections. So you can expect pretty much the same volume in next month's presentation. In addition to that, I believe there was a question in regards to the Family Income Index grant associated with this agenda item. Am I correct?
Mhm.
Okay, so the Family Income Index funding is a state funding pilot for 2 years. It was initially awarded for the purpose of providing student supports and services to schools serving the highest concentration of students living in poverty. The qualifying district designated to receive funds were based on those districts and states charter schools with a demonstrated significant population of homeless and migrant students, and that are current McKinney-Vento homeless education programs and or public education department migrant program subgrantees. Awards were calculated based upon the student count for each of these populations in the 18-19 school year. While homeless and migrant student populations were a determining factor in these awards, the funding is not exclusive to homeless and migrant student population. In the first year, the allowable uses of funding were very constrictive. They were only allowed to use 1/3 on evidence-based structured literacy interventions that have been shown to improve reading and writing achievement of students. Another 1/3 on evidence-based mathematics instructions and interventions. And the third on additional intervention like case management, tutoring, culturally relevant professional and curriculum development. So again, in the first year, it seemed to have been highly restrictive per the information that was provided back to the legislators. The language was changed based on my knowledge for the second year, where this 30-30-30 requirement was nullified and was a little bit more easier for the schools to adopt and implement initiatives. In addition, we also have program representation, I believe, online that can assist us if you have any other follow-up questions and this information was not sufficient.
So when is a pilot over? Is
It ended 6/30/2023.
Okay, well, that's sad.
I'm pretty sure, but let me double check.
I just think it was I thought it was.
This pilot is formula based. Because it's formula based, every 2 years, let's say, it will probably be recalculated and reallocated, but not exactly to the same schools necessarily, because it's formula based. Again, it's based on the type of students, which schools have the number. So whichever school qualifies, probably most of them will requalify.
That's good. Okay, that's a good thing. So, does anybody have any questions before I ask mine? No? I mean, the only thing that I was concerned about, I'm looking at all of the, Carissa funds that are on there and the ARPA funds. And so those are going to be going away. And so I know you all already know this, and I'm just wondering, all of the programs that we have and the stipends, I think that we're giving for letters, those are things that we are going to obviously want to continue. And some of these other programs that we'll want to continue. So we're just going to have to find that money in operational then. And so do you have any idea how much it's going to be with things that we know are working really well for our kids, how much money we're going to have to try to find in operational after this money's gone next September?
Yeah, we are in the process, and I will be going
Figuring
over this in the
budget.
budget presentation
Good.
of how we're going to address all of this.
Great. Wonderful. Stay tuned. It's coming up. Okay. I think that's it. So we could have a motion.
I will move to approve the June 2023 intra-function transfers for the grant budget.
I'll second.
Okay, if we can have a roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller Aragon,
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
All right, so next will be consideration for approval of the June 2023 intra-function transfers for all non-categorical funds. And Ms. Hicks.
Thank you.
Mhm.
This agenda item request that you consider for approval the June 2023 interfunction transfers for all non-categorical funds. I went through this 10-page document,
Mhm.
and I noticed that the dollars that are being transferred are very low. It was the last month of the year. I didn't see anything that piqued my interest. And so I
Okay.
stand for questions.
Okay, any questions? If not, we can have a motion.
I'll move for approval of June 2023 intra-function transfers for all non-categorical funds.
I will second.
Roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller Aragon,
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Okay. Next one is consideration for approval of budget adjustment increase of $623,291.80 for student transportation services, FY 22 year-end unexpended cash balances. This one was kind of confusing to me. So if it was confusing to me, it's probably not going to be confusing to anybody else. So
No, ma'am, it is confusing.
it is confusing. Okay. I was like, okay.
Okay, so the way this works is that any cash balance that we have in the transportation fund is swept by PED. The current rule is 50%. It used to be 100%. Now it's 50. We were advised by PED to budget zero cash transferring from rolling over from FY 23 to FY 24. We complied with that request. However, we had a $1.2 million cash balance, 50% goes to PED, 629,000. We keep 629. So we cut them a check and we paid them. But since we didn't roll over any cash, this is also an increase to us of 629,000. Does that make sense? No,
It went from zero.
it went from zero,
Went from 0 to 620.
right?
I mean, they explained it to me, but I just thought, okay, I'm the only one that's not going to understand it, even though they explained it to me, but I'm getting clearer.
Okay, so bottom line, we were advised to do the wrong thing.
That's
Bye.
what I was told. So it was like they told him to do something this was what the correction was, because they asked you to do something that you shouldn't have been asked to do. So we all make mistakes and then we just go on, but we have the 629,000. So that's good.
That's good.
So that's good. So thank you so much. Any questions about that? We're all clear.
Oh, I'm wondering why PED is taking money from us, but we can discuss that later.
Okay. Anything else? If not, if we could have a motion to take this money.
Well, it's money. I mean,
It's ours
it's-
anyway.
it's money we owe
Oh, but-
them. Sweeping is an ongoing issue for us,
We-
for all parts of the budget. But anyway, so I'll move for approval of budget adjustment increase of $623,291.80 for student transportation services for FY 22 year-end unexpended cash balances.
And I need a second.
I'll second.
Okay.
Not enthusiastic.
With enthusiasm, not
Not
enthusiastically though, but may I have roll call, please?
Peggy Mueller Aragon,
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, next is consideration for approval of technology budget adjustment increase of $8,400 in anticipated revenue. Okay, Ms. Hicks.
This agenda item requests your consideration for approval of technology budget adjustment increase of $8,400 in anticipated revenue. This is a budget adjustment because the lease to the American Sign Language Charter School, we are going to charge $8,400 for a package of IT services, some of which are hardware, routers, internet, and some of which is staff time out of the technology organization. And so in order to recognize that revenue and put that money into technology's budget so they can spend it requires an increase to the budget and your approval as well as PED's approval.
Okay. Any questions about that? Okay, if I could have a motion, please.
I move to approve a technology budget adjustment increase of $8,400 in anticipated revenue.
I'll second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller Aragon.
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, on to consideration for approval of gifts, grants, and donations of more than $5,000 to Del Norte and to Manzano. Okay. Mr. Turnbull, go ahead.
Madam Chair, members of the Board, Superintendent Elder. Again, this is an item for approval of donations of $7,971 to Del Norte High School from the University of New Mexico and $5,000 to Manzano High School from the Monarch Legacy Foundation. So I stand for questions.
It's a gift. You can't refuse a gift. We don't refuse
just
gifts.
talked about that.
There you go.
Yeah, I will move to approve the gifts, grants, and donations of more than $5,000 of $7,971 to Del Norte High School and $5,000 to Manzano High School.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller Aragon.
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, so on to consideration for approval. Statements of equipment to be taken out of service for May 1st to the 31st, 2023. So I think you are on.
Madam Chair, members of the Board, Superintendent Elder. Again, this is for consideration for approval of equipment taken out of service for May of 2023. So we have a salvage department amount of $690,142.16. And then that's coming directly from the schools that they have sent to salvage to be disposed of. Second item there is amount to be salvaged of $1,990,882.95. And these are items coming from the technology department to salvage. If you look through your items, we did per board member Mueller Aragon's request for the technology list, we did provide a location.
Thank you.
Those items originally came from.
Great.
So with that, I stand for questions.
I appreciate you doing that. Any questions at all? It's a bunch. I know I think, how many did you say we have? Like 40,000? I don't know. It's a lot, right? That we're trying to.
Yeah.
There's approximately 40,000 assets that are at the Osuna warehouse that are awaiting disposal. We're trying to do about 3,000 a month. That's what is presented here is about 3,000 assets for about $1.9 million.
So it's going to take several months to
Absolutely.
get through it all. Okay. And then I know, Mr. Turnbull, you had kind of let me know how you all you use TipWeb and that's for inventory, but then Lawson, which is going to obviously change, is used for the financial part of everything, right? But that may change in time to a different system. But right now we have TipWeb and Lawson, and that kind of, the TipWeb is what helps you find the location. Is that correct?
We actually utilize Lawson as our book of records.
Okay.
And that is where the information comes from.
Okay.
So our inventory tracking is done in TipWeb. So when an item moves over to the salvage warehouse, we know exactly where it's at, that we need to then identify that asset in Lawson in order to make the presentation to you.
Okay. So TipWeb is just helps track that inventory.
Yeah, it's an inventory. It is our inventory system that we
Okay.
utilize to track our assets and account for them.
Okay, awesome. Okay, thank you for doing that. If there aren't any questions, then we can have a motion for approval.
I'll move that we approve the statement of, oh, I just switched to the wrong technology budget adjustment. And no, that's not good. Thank you. Approval statements of equipment to be taken out of service for May 1st through 31st, 2023.
I'll second.
Okay, if we can have a roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller Aragon,
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, show me later.
Okay, the next item is consideration for approval of statement of portables to be taken out of service July 1st to the 31st, 2023. Okay. No, we're not at July 31st yet, so that's an okay thing. But go ahead.
That's generally how we present these because we're given the list from FDNC to dispose of portables that they deem to be unusable and unfit. So it's generally presented that way.
Okay. Go ahead. If you have anything else we're like, yay, some of these were around in the 80s.
Even before.
60s.
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 It's like, holy smoke.
Yeah, nothing more to add.
Okay,
Now I'm on the right page.
you're on the right
So I'll
page.
move for approval of the statement of portables to be taken out of service for July 1st through 31st, 2023.
Okay,
I'll second.
if we could have a roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller Aragon.
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, our next will be consideration for approval of district purchases that equals or exceeds $250,000 for vehicles and dump truck. So, hi.
Hello. Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Elder, on behalf of APS Procurement, I'm requesting consideration for approval of the purchase of vehicles and a dump truck, utilizing a state price agreement and CS cooperative agreements for both the vehicles, and the dump truck was also under a CS agreement. The estimated amount is $272,000. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions? I'm assuming they're replacing vehicles, right?
Yes, and I believe there is a replacement list included. in
Right. Okay, wonderful. If there aren't any questions, if I could have a motion, please.
I will move to approve for district purchase or expenditure that equals or exceeds $250,000 for vehicles and a dump truck.
I'll second.
If we can have a roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller Aragon,
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, next item is consideration for approval of district purchase or expenditure that exceeds or equals $250,000 for audio equipment and services.
Madam
Go
Chair,
ahead.
members of the board, Superintendent Elder, on behalf of procurement, I'm requesting consideration for approval of the purchase of audio equipment and services. This would be utilizing a NASPO New Mexico contract, and the estimated purchase is $3,950,000 utilizing ESSER funds. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay, any questions about that? Okay, just need a motion.
I will move to approve a district purchase or expenditure that equals or exceeds $250,000 for audio equipment and services.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller Aragon.
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, next item is consideration for approval of district purchase or expenditure that equals or exceeds $250,000 for reading intervention materials. Okay, you're on.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Superintendent Elder, on behalf of APS Procurement, I'm requesting consideration for approval of the procurement of reading intervention materials. This would be utilizing a CES and a Los Angeles United School District agreement. And the estimated amount is $4.5 million over 4 years. I'm happy to answer questions.
Do you know what the I mean, I know, and thank you for all the background information. And I know we've used, used this before, the iReady and iStation. Do you have any idea what we've spent on it previously?
Going to defer to Joyce Grumley.
So iReady was purchased in 2021-22 school year by special ed. They purchased limited number of licenses just for special ed students. It was inadvertently turned on for
I know, I saw that, yeah.
all students. And so it's hard to compare the
Yeah.
$71,000 they spent versus the, I think, total
It's
$534,000 that we're going to spend this year for K-5. We want to make sure that all students who are not proficient in reading have access. And so I believe, though, that the per pupil cost remains about the same.
Okay, wonderful. Any questions? Yes, Member Peterson.
So is this material all online?
No, what both of these programs provide is a blended approach. And so students have access to the online portal, and the recommendation is that they are not online for more than 45 minutes a week. Research shows that anything above and beyond 45 minutes does not give any added gains to students. But if students need additional intervention, teachers have the ability to download additional resources so that it will support targeted interventions with concepts students are struggling with. And then this will allow them to help access the grade level content. So this is not replacing core content. This is to ensure that students have access to core content.
And most of it is in person with a teacher, face to face.
Right.
And not
No more
online.
than 3 times a week, 15 minutes a session online. Everything else, this will not replace a teacher. This is just giving teachers another tool. And what it allows is that gives teachers the ability to really work in small groups and differentiate and have students engaged productively while they're working in other small groups. So a centered-based activity.
So I appreciate the information you sent about it, but when I read it, I thought, this sounds like something that a publisher would say about their own materials. And I'm just kind of curious what feedback you get from practitioners about, it makes the statement, oh, it's culturally relevant and linguistically sensitive, whatever the verbiage is. But I'm curious what kinds of actual reports you get from teachers that are using it with students.
So what I will tell you is that last year when it was no longer available, we heard about it a lot from teachers. They were very disappointed. They believe it is an effective tool for them to use. And this isn't just elementary teachers that responded, it was middle school teachers as well responded that, why don't we have access to iReady? And so, as you saw, we wanted to be thoughtful and make sure that we didn't just purchase something we already had because we already had it. We really got our team of literacy experts in the district from multiple departments to make sure we were purchasing the most aligned and effective tools.
Okay, thank you.
And we can also talk to the, Cheryl Wheeler can talk to the culturally relevant piece, because that was a question that we asked both publishers as well as, how do you go about ensuring that these are culturally relevant materials?
I also wanted to just share too, as the students are progressing through the content, they're also informed of their progress along the way. So it also gives another access point for the teachers to have those data conversations with the students. Both of the programs also offer a family component too, so it also engages the family with the students' progress, as well as offering the families additional resources to support their children at home. Specifically with the culturally responsive content, that is also one of the questions that we had. So iReady notes that they partner with Dr. Shiraki Hawley to ensure that the content also includes the rings of culture. They also have commissioned passages that represent the student population, as well as added strategic scaffolds specifically to address the needs of our English language learners. They also work with the Council of Great City Schools to really ensure that their framework is also centered around. With iStation, they have a multi-dimensional learning design framework that includes a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens. So the characters that the students are engaging with within the programs are presented in a gamification mode. So those narratives arc throughout their process so that the students are actually seeing themselves through the content. A couple of the characters that they've shared is Celia Cruz and Tito Puente. And so these materials are also assessed through another individual, Dr. Kathy Escamilla. So they've reviewed the iStation books and they've come to, a conclusion that the materials that the students are engaging in are culturally and linguistically responsive to their needs.
I appreciate that. I have to say, I'm always a bit skeptical when the curriculum is coming from a vendor whose primary mission has been assessment. Because I mean, my skepticism is that we start adapting our curriculum to assessment rather than adapting assessment to curriculum, which is a more appropriate thread or direction. And so I just hope, not to say that this shouldn't be purchased, but that I hope that we always do look at it with that level of skepticism of where is the impetus for a purchase coming from? And is it based on the best instruction and curriculum, or is it based on matching the assessment that we're using?
I appreciate your input on that. What I found when I looked at iStation, or when we looked at iStation and met with the vendors and looked at it, is that it really was integrated. One wasn't driving the other, that they were two products that work very well together. The assessment piece provides information to the personalization of the lessons. And so to me, we're taking an assessment that we're mandated to use and adding a tool that really is better in supporting, informing teachers.
And hopefully those publishers are really listening to the feedback that they get from teachers and students. Thank you.
She had some of the same, we always have the same kind of questions there. So thank you, Member Peterson. Do you have any questions?
Just a question about it says the purchase from Curriculum Associates for iReady utilizes an existing contract from LAUSD. Are we like, can you explain that a little more? Are we tagging off of somebody's contract or?
Yes, those are, so LAUSD put out a competitive procurement, and under New Mexico Procurement Code, we can often utilize those agreements. It's often called a piggybacking agreement, and it's, we'll use different ones from different ISDs around the country if they don't all, they're not all open or applicable to us, but under this agreement, it is available, and we've utilized it in the past as well.
And by piggybacking, does it allow for better pricing? Like what would be the point of piggybacking, I guess?
It's just a procurement tool we use if some of it is timing. So the work has been done. We'll look at the terms and conditions of the agreement. Sometimes we can negotiate better pricing. Sometimes we can negotiate better terms. It just depends on the agreement itself.
Okay.
If I could add one thing.
Yeah.
So when they put out the RFP, they're part of the Council of Great City Schools. So they will add that in there that any of the school districts that are part of the council can utilize the contract. So it helps us with the pricing to be more competitive.
Okay. And then just to confirm, this is based on the science of reading, correct? There is no non-science of reading in here, correct?
There is no cueing theory or guided reading, no.
Okay, good. And I just real quick have to give a shout out to my my high school La Sosita, Heather Pillman, who is sitting in the back. Hello, who is one of the vendors. So hi, nice to see you.
Okay, Member Gonzalez, do you have any questions? No? Okay. And I just obviously will have, I loved what Member Peterson already said. I always am just concerned about little kids being on a computer. And when I read that's not what it was all about. And it was very timed about how much time they were going to spend, and that small groups and large groups, that was all part of it. So that's not what it was. And if teachers love it and the kids are getting something from it, and that's what you're saying, that's what matters. And teaching the phonics and phonemic awareness and fluency and comprehension and vocabulary that Member Peterson and I did like for decades.
Decades and decades.
For decades. So
Decades.
yes.
And we did teach phonics as well as thinking.
So we remember doing that. But I did love what she said about like adapting assessment to curriculum and not the other way around. And I hope that that's what we're doing. As you all know what I think, and I'm pretty sure I can speak for Member Peterson. It's like tests are not what we should base everything on. It should really be about what they're learning. So I appreciate all the background information that you did give us. So thank you for that. And with that, if we can have a motion.
I will move to approve the district purchase or expenditure that equals or exceeds $250,000 for reading intervention material.
I will second.
Okay, if I could have a roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller-Aragon,
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, so next is consideration for approval of the June 2023 cash disbursements. Any questions? If not, we can have a motion.
I move for approval of June 2023 correct cash disbursements.
I will second.
Roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller-Aragon,
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes.
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Now, our next item for discussion is update on the FY 2024 budget. Ms. Montoya.
It is. Madam Chair, board members, Superintendent Nelder,
I'm here to present an update to our budget. So in this presentation, I will give an overview of our FY24 budget, our website and budget book, as well as the ESSER funds. Next. Our FY24 budgets are already in use, and I wanted to recap how the $2.2 billion budget was dispersed by fund. So our biggest portion, of course, is of the budget was $985 million that are our foundational dollars that support our schools and departments, followed by $533 million of capital funds, and then our federal grants at $345 million, most of which are ESSER funds that have contributed many benefits for our students, and I will speak to that shortly. Next. So we continue to work with ERS in phase 1, which is assessing our current state to define a vision for our funding system, to understand system conditions and identify opportunities for resource shift. Our next working group meeting is August 9th from 9 to 10 a.m. and we have tentatively set another meeting for September 18th. And next is the working group members. I just wanted to put this in there so that you could see that it does have a diverse group of individuals giving input into this project. And then next. Well, before that, I guess it has been brought, I wanted to make note that it has been brought to our attention that the state is looking into changing the funding formula, which could also make a difference in possible resource shifts. So we're going to be keeping that in mind as we go through the project. But I don't know the exact timeline for this project at this time, but we will be keeping an ear out for that. And so on this one, we continue to update our out-facing webpage. So if you go to the APS website, you can find our 24 budget breakdown, kind of like the way that I kind of said it per fund. You'll find prior year budgets, and you'll find our budget presentations. And you also will find fast facts, including like the number of schools that we have, our enrollment, and other interesting facts. So I just wanted to point that out because that's one of the things that we've been working on to increase transparency. And then the other item that we continue to compile our FY23 budget book. And as soon as we have the actuals for FY23, we can roll that information to produce our FY24 budget book, which we hope to submit for the Meritorious Budget Award sponsored by ASBO International, which is the Association of School Business Officials. And then another thing that we're working on is our budget policy. So I just wanted to make sure you guys knew we are working on that. And so we're getting pretty close to having a good draft of that. Next, oh, and this little visual here is just something that you'll see on the website also. But next to begin, the ESSER update. I wanted to start with the ESSER 2 funds, or CRISA, or CIRSA, as some say. It was a smaller pot of money of $58 million. And with these funds, we supported Academy K-8 and the charter schools, as well as the TOPS and ELTP extended day hours for salaries and benefits, communications freelancers, LC translation services, class hero licenses, summer literacy, bilingual books, summer school salaries and benefits, and letters training completion payments. We are still closing out these funds as the use of these funds expired 6/30/23, but we have a liquidation window of up to 9/30/23. And it looks like we were able to use all of these funds completely, so that was good. And this graph that this graphic that you're seeing now, it kind of like just shows, it's a recap of the major areas of focus for our ESSER 3 funds or ARPA funds. And next. This is just the funds update. So of course, ARPA was the largest of the ESSER funding and which was about $242 million. And we are hoping that in the next few months, you will really see the percentages go up in each of these buckets. The graphic shows the amount spent at year end for FY23. In our next presentation, we will include the spending to date inclusive of what's happening already in FY24. And one of the things that we're going to be doing is meeting with each of the departments who have been allocated ARPA funds to make sure that they are on track to utilize the funds they have received. And if not, we will be, if they plan to revert any back, we need to know that also so that it can be redistributed if possible. And we are also wanting to know if they have identified other ways to fund any initiatives. So that they desire to keep on moving on, maybe like letters, as you had mentioned. And we will encourage them first to find other grant funding if it is allowable. And the initiative has been identified to have benefited our students. And then if they can't find funding through there, we will have to figure out how we can support it with operational dollars. And by doing that, you know, we'll have to probably see what we prioritize. So that's pretty much all I have for an update this month. With that, we stand for questions.
Okay. Any questions? Go ahead.
I'll just say I appreciate all of the work that you do in making this visually understandable for all of us and getting the information out and making sure that we're using every last cent in the best way we possibly can. And I think this reflects it. I know President Montoya Cordova shared a letter earlier this week or last week that there's discussion in the U.S. House of Representatives to cut title funds by somewhere around 80%. And I'm thinking that it probably won't come true, but if it did, it would be devastating to us. And so any conversation that we can have with any policymakers, I think that our congressional delegation is pretty solidly in support of title funding. So I don't think that we have a lot of lobbying to do with them, but it's something that maybe our government affairs folks can keep an eye on and give us a heads up about what would be needed, because it would be devastating. It would be devastating to our community schools, to our reading intervention programs, and to a lot of our professional development. So, but thank you for this. I really appreciate the updates.
Thank you. Okay, Member Jackson.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at the last page, particularly the safe operations of schools, that shows that only 2% of the funds have been used at this point. And this might not be a you question, but where do we stand on spending that money? I mean, I know we just approved, what was it, $7 million for the badges and all of that. Is it just not reflecting in here because it has, is it not reflecting in here? Where do we stand? Why are we only at 2% for safe operations of schools?
Yeah, that's a great question. Safe operations of school is kind of like the budget stabilization portion of this. So this 58 million, we have it earmarked for things that we need to use for our budget stabilization for this year. So we plan to use all of that. But
to
we
stabilize
just
the
haven't
budget?
Not
not for like safety.
No.
What?
No, so this
So it's a
board
misnomer.
member No, it's was the way it was designed. It meshed up with some federal guidance on how we had to put it. So we have danced around the safe operation of schools for 3 years. So I have to take you back to the very beginning. When the first year this all came in, we were looking at a $40 million deficit. We really thought we were going to have to dip into ESSER to, I think, about $38 million. Well, at that time, we did some pretty creative work and we ended up only using, I think, 17 million or so. I can't remember what it was, but it was not as much. And so each year we've had this amount sitting there because we're afraid we're going to hit this weird cliff. And everybody keeps talking about the fiscal cliff. And so we've been worried about it. So that money is sat there. Then we got to, honestly, because the way it's titled, Dr. Blakey, for example, is probably, is this safe operations? Is this the physical safety? Is this and some of it also was some of the cleaning. Some of it was we bought at the very beginning, we had people walk around in hazmat suits going through the schools, cleaning outbreaks and stuff. That has sort of faded. So now there's this block of money that we had aligned with some things that just didn't work. It didn't happen the way it was projected to happen. So some of that money has been sitting there. We're trying to spend it. We're making every effort we can to spend it. But it was there for other purposes and it did save us. I know the first year we needed about, I don't remember how much it was. It went from 38 million to 19 million to 16 million. I don't remember what the final amount was, but we did stabilize the district budget. So we didn't have to let people go in the middle of a pandemic. And then we've used it that way as we've worked through. But the initial cost was not what we had been led to believe it might be. So that's why there was a chunk. So now we're at the end and we've got that money left and we're looking at other ways to spend it. So you're right.
58 million is just.
Some of it has already been earmarked for expenditures. So some of that is spent. It's just sitting in you get math here.
Yeah,
The budget people.
It has been earmarked. All of it has been earmarked actually, but we don't, for the things that we've earmarked it for, we don't actually have to do encumbrances. So it's just, we know where all that money is going to be going and to what items we hope to be able to accomplish. With those funds, this past year, we used 20 million. I'm sure it's not reflected in there yet, but you'll start to see this move quite a bit. So I think already 20 million of that has already been used. But what's happening also is there's been kind of a movement from, we wanted to make sure we spent all the Carissa funds. So we also had to move any expenses, some of the expenses that we had in our ESSER, our ESSER 3 ARPA funds, we moved to Carissa because we couldn't spend it. And then we're switching things around. So it's always kind of a moving target, but everything is earmarked and we do plan to spend it all. And we will be giving more updates on that as, like I said, they haven't fully closed out the year yet. So until we see how everything falls, then we'll be able to move things, and the FY24 budget will start to include those encumbrances, which are not included here. So you'll see those go up.
Okay.
So you'll be able to give us more detailed about where that money went to. I know people ask us that, like even a little detail.
Yeah, on the ESSER funds update in the buckets, some of it had already gone to retention initiatives and the budget stabilization. I can start to show exactly what that is.
That would be helpful. Member Gonzalez, do you have any questions? No. Okay, is that it? Thank you all so much. And I appreciate what you all are doing and how you're putting kids first and their learning first when you're putting this all together. And if things are working, we want to keep funding them. If they're not, then find something else that works. And I appreciate that that's what you all are looking at, student-based budgeting. And I appreciate that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Cute dog.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that's
Makes
gonna
our
be
day, those that love
be
dogs.
our new for the FY25 planning. Those of you that have seen multiple years of budgets, we pick a theme and we kind of keep with that for the whole year. So this, we thought a cute one would be good for this year.
Make us
We need
smile.
something,
Our
yeah.
dogs always make us smile, so
It always
Barbara and
does
I
for
always
me
smile.
anyhow.
Okay, thank you so much. Okay. All right, so our next Finance Committee meeting will be held on August 23rd, 2023, following the 5 o'clock Audit Committee meeting in the John Milne Community Boardroom of Allison Bruce King Ed Complex, 6400 Uptown, and live streamed at aps.edu. And this meeting is adjourned, and it will be followed by a special Board of Education meeting. So whenever you're ready, we'll go to the last meeting. That would be like, it'll take like 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
Maybe a minute. Doesn't bad. 2 hours for 3 meetings.
Done yet?
This will be done in like a minute. Roll call will take longer.
I have learned though, never just look at the agenda, always check to see if there's convening to executive session, because I've been tricked
that's
more
what-
than once.
When you think it's done.
When I first saw that audit material, I went,
Yeah.
Zach. Oh, wait, it's just audit.
Are we? It's okay.
Together, so if you want us to do like, should we do a kick line?
Go for it. Okay, are we ready? Yes,
Sal, are we ready?
I don't see him, so
He's online.
hear him.
Board members, we're ready.
Okay, okay, I'd like to call the special board meeting to order. If we can have a roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller Aragon,
Here.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Here.
Barbara Peterson,
Here,
Crystal Tapia Romero, Josefina Dominguez, Courtney Jackson,
Here.
Yolanda Montoya Cordova.
Okay, our first item for consideration and action is adoption of the July 26, 2023 Special Board of Education meeting agenda.
I move we adopt the July 22nd, 2023, 26, I can't read anymore. Special Board of Education meeting agenda.
I will second.
Roll call, please.
I apologize. Peggy Mueller Aragon,
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes,
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Okay, our next item for consideration is approval of the consent calendar that includes items approved by the Finance Committee. And just a reminder that we did remove, and I'm assuming that we did remove item 4A11, but that was removed from the previous, so I'm assuming that is fine. Okay.
Okay, so I move to approve the consent calendar for the Finance Committee on July 26, 2023.
I'll second.
Peggy Mueller Aragon,
Yes.
Danielle Gonzalez,
Yes.
Barbara Peterson,
Yes,
Courtney Jackson.
Yes.
Okay. The next Board of Education meeting will be August 2nd, 2023 at 5 o'clock. And the next special board meeting will be August 23rd, 2023. Immediately following the Finance Committee, both will be in the John Milne Community Boardroom and live streamed at aps.edu. And with that, we are adjourned.
Woo-hoo.